Trust Thomas. Thomas the tank engine was feeling bright and cheerful. It was a splendid day. "Good morning," he whistled to some cows, but the cows didn't reply. "Never mind," said Thomas. "They're busy with their breakfast." Next he saw Bertie. "Hello, Bertie. Care for a race today?" But all Bertie could say was, "Ouch! That's another hole in the road!" "I'm sorry, Bertie," smiled Thomas. Thomas was still in good spirits when Bertie arrived at the next station. "Bad luck, Bertie," said Thomas. "Now if you were a steam engine, you would run on a pair of reliable rails." "Ha!" replied Bertie. "The railway was supposed to deliver tar to mend the road 2 weeks ago. You can't trust a thing that runs on rails." "I run on rails. You can trust me, Bertie. I'll see if I can find out what's happened." Thomas left Bertie and made his way along the branch line towards the big station by the sea. James was snorting about in the yard. "It's too bad! Percy goes to work at the harbour and I do his job, here, there, and everywhere. Take that!" "Oh!" groaned the trucks. "Just you wait! We'll show you!" Gordon laughed.
"I'll tell you what, James. If you pretended to be ill everywhere, you couldn't shut trucks here or go to the quarry there, could you?"
"What a good idea!" agreed James. "Look, here comes Thomas. I'll start pretending now." Thomas was sorry to see the engines looking miserable. "Cheer up, it's a beautiful day."
"Yes,"
grumbled Gordon.
"but not for James."
"What's the matter?"
"He's sick,"
replied Gordon. "Yes, he is. I am," stuttered James. "I don't feel well at all." "Don't worry," said Thomas kindly. "I'll help out if you're ill." Gordon and James sniggered quietly to each other. Some of James's trucks were coupled behind Thomas and he steamed away to the quarry. The trucks were still cross. "We couldn't pay James back for bumping us, so we'll play tricks on Thomas instead. What engine is as good as another?" But Thomas didn't hear them. He collected all the stone from the quarry and then set off back to the junction. Danger lay ahead. "Now for our plan!" giggled the trucks. "Go faster! Go faster!" "Slow down!" called Thomas's driver, and applied the brakes. Poor Thomas stood dazed and surprised in a muddy pond as a toad eyed him suspiciously. "Bust my buffers!" muttered Thomas. "The day started so well, too." Duck pulled away the trucks, and Edward helped Thomas back to the junction. Suddenly, Thomas remembered the missing tar. He told Edward all about it. "That's strange," said Edward. "A truck full of tar's been left at my station. That must be it. Driver will make sure it gets to Bertie now." Later, James spoke to Thomas. "I'm sorry about your accident," he muttered, "and so is Gordon. We didn't mean to get you into trouble."
"No, indeed," spluttered Gordon. "A mere misunderstanding, Thomas. All's well that ends well."
Just then, Bertie arrived. He looked much more cheerful. "My road's being mended now." "Oh, I am glad," replied Thomas. "Thanks for all you did. Now I know I can trust an engine, especially if his name is Thomas." Gordon and James puffed silently away to the shed. But Thomas still had company. "Well, well," he sighed. "What a day for surprises." The toad, who was looking forward to a ride home, noisily agreed. Theodore's best friend. One day, Emily was telling Theodore all about her trip across the ocean. She had seen so many interesting things. Theodore was impressed. "Emily, you're my best friend," he said. "Thank you," said Emily. And off she went with a very happy smile. "Race you around Bedford Buoy," Hank called out to Theodore. The two tugs were off before you could say one toot. Hank made the fastest turns Theodore had ever seen. Theodore was amazed. "Hank, you're my best friend," he said. "Great," said Hank. racing ahead. "I've always wanted to have a best friend." Ping, ping, went Foduk's sonar machine.
"There's a sandbar here," Foduk said. "The water isn't very deep. A tugboat could get stuck. I've got to warn the others."
Just then, Theodore saw Foduk's new red lifeboat. "What a great lifeboat!" Theodore said.
"We could trade," said Foduk. "I'll lend you my lifeboat, and you lend me yours."
Theodore felt so happy that he blurted out, "Foduk, you're my best friend." Just then, Hank turned by. "Where did you get that red lifeboat, Theodore?" asked Hank.
"We traded lifeboats,"
Foduk said.
"Theodore's my best friend."
"But Theodore's my best friend," said Hank. Everyone was quiet, especially Theodore. "Oh well," said Hank sadly, floating away. I have to go practice my speed turns." Theodore knew Hank was upset, but he didn't know what to do. That afternoon, the dispatcher announced that 3 big ships would be arriving. All the tugboats were needed. But where was Hank? The 4 tugboats went off to find him. Theodore found Hank first. "Hank," called Theodore, "we have a big job this afternoon." But Hank didn't move. He didn't even answer. Theodore went to get help. He told Emily about Hank. "Why won't he talk to you?" asked Emily. "I told Hank he was my best friend," Theodore said. "But then I said Foduk was my best friend." Emily frowned. "But I thought I was your best friend."
"We found Hank," called George. "He's stuck on a sandbar."
The other tugboats went to help, but Theodore stayed behind. "It's all because of me," Theodore said. "All these problems are because of me."
"Come on, Theodore," George puffed. "We need your help."
Theodore sped over to join the others.
1, 2, 3,
George roared. Hank was finally free. "Hooray!" everyone whistled. Theodore's whistle was the loudest. "How did you get stuck?" Emily asked. "I was practicing speed turns," Hank explained. "But I was thinking about Theodore not being my best friend, and I plowed right into the sandbar." "Is that why you didn't answer me when I called you?" asked Theodore. "I didn't even hear you," Hank said. "I was facing the other way." "So who is your best friend, Theodore?" Emily asked. Theodore didn't know what to say. Emily knew so many things. Hank was lots of fun. Foduk was always solving problems. George had such a big heart. Then Theodore remembered how good it felt when all the tugs helped rescue Hank. "I know," tooted Theodore. "We're all best friends."